Hey guys, my name is Hannah and I would say, let's have some fun today. So guys, today I want to do a ranking of my melt palettes, if you didn't know already by my title. I don't have with every of my melt palettes a video right now on my channel, but I really want to do that and I want to step up my game in that direction, so that you also have a little bit of melt content on my channel, because this is also, besides Pat McGrath, a brand that I really love and admire, and I want to do a little bit more in that direction, so really want to show you a little bit more of my looks that I'm creating with my melt palettes. But today I really want to rank them with you, because I think I have some newer ones in my collection that I tried for some while now, and I think now I'm set for a while with my melt palettes, unless they're bringing out a new palette that really sparks my interest. But right now I'm really happy with my melt collection that I have. And in total I have 7 melt palettes in my hand right now, and I really want to rank them with you. But don't get me wrong, I love all of them. I'm really a big fan of the melt formulation. Like I always said to you guys, I think you have some shades in the melt formula, especially the more shimmery shades that are a little bit more on the crumblier side, where you need to have a little bit more time on your plate to play with them. But if you have that time, then your look will be so beautiful in the end and you will be really happy with that. But I also understand where people are coming from that are struggling a little bit with that formula and aren't the biggest fan of it. But I really love that brand, and so I really want to rank my palettes today with you. But so that you know, I love all of them. The last palette isn't my least used or my palette that I really don't like. I like them all, but there are some palettes I'm using a little bit more, or the color story is speaking a hint more to me than the other one. So I really try to rank them more based off my personal liking and what I gravitate more towards and what not so much. But all in all, I love all of them, so that you are aware of that. But yeah, if it sounds good and interesting to you, I would say let's get started and get right into the video. So in the 7th place, it's maybe a surprise to you, because it's a color story that I really love on myself. I really like to play with those colors, but it's my Gemini 2 palette. It's the 7th place. I really like this one, but I think what is making this one more on towards the bottom for me, it was a struggle. Initially it wasn't the last place, but I swapped them around again because it was really hard for me, guys. I won't lie. It was a little bit hard to rank them, but at the end I decided to bring this one to the last place, because here I think I really would like to have a little bit of a lighter shimmer and maybe one shimmer more and swap it out with one of those shades right here. But all in all, I really like this palette. It's more of the color story. It's a color story I really like, but it's a grungier version of a rosy color story, so I'm not gravitating that often towards it, to be honest. Like I told you, I really would like to have a lighter shimmer in here. I think that if it would be in here, it would round the palette up even more beautifully and make it more versatile, in my opinion. But with our collection, it's getting bigger and bigger, you know, we always have something to throw in there. But all in all, I really wished I like to stick to one palette when I don't want to have it too complicated. So I'm a little bit sad that there's not a lighter shimmer, but I like to use the color Bella sometimes for my inner corners, and it's working perfectly fine. But yeah, all in all, I think this is the palette for some reason I don't gravitate that often towards, but maybe it will change with time and my ranking will get swapped out again. You know, it's always depends on my mood, on the time, and what I'm gravitating in that time towards more than maybe to other things. But all in all, I really like this palette. But if I compare this one to my other ones, I think this is the least used, and yeah, the palette I gravitate least towards. But it's not because I don't like it, it's just because the time, and it's not the time right now for me and that color story, I feel. So this is the 7th place. In the 6th place is my Smoke Session palette, and this is a palette I really admire, but when it comes down to it, the color story I'm playing the least with is green. to be honest. Green is the color story I'm really playing the least with, and it's because I have the feeling I love green tones, don't get me wrong, but I think it has to be a specific type of green that I gravitate towards it, or I have the feeling that it's suiting me and my skin tone. And I don't know, every time I'm wearing something flashy green on my eyes, I have the feeling it's not suiting me that nice or that well. So that's because this is a little bit more down. But the other reason, because it's a step higher ranked than my Gemini 2 palette, it's because of those gold shimmer tones right here. I really love them. I think they're so stunning. Those are more on the dirty greenish, goldeny side, and I think that's because I play a little bit more with that side than with this side right here. But every time I use this palette, I really try to combine both sides with each other, because that I have the most use out of this palette right here. But yeah, and the other reason maybe why it's also on the 6th place, I think it's really stunning and beautiful, and the shimmers are performing so nicely. They're so metallic and really they're really making you a bam look in the end, trust me. But you just have 2 mattes and they are both really, really dark, so you always maybe have to bring another palette in your look to round everything up, if you know what I mean. Sometimes I don't do that with that palette. I think I can do also looks with it without that I have to bring in another palette, but all in all, you know, it's not the palette that's the most versatile for me, and therefore I think the 6th place is understandable. So yeah, I really love it. I use it, especially in the fall time. I really love this one, but I have to be honest with myself. I don't gravitate towards those flashy green tones that often, and therefore I think it's the 6th place. But all in all, I think it's beautiful, so I'm really happy that it's in there. But yeah, if I have to rank it somewhere, I think it would be more on the bottom. But all in all, love it. In the 5th place is the palette that I'm wearing today on my eyes. I paired the palette with another one, which I will show you as well, but it's my Gemini 1 palette and I really like it. I bought this one on eBay for a really good deal. I couldn't resist and I'm not mad about it. I really like it. I have basically the shade Cupcake all at the outer portion of my lid and also worked it a little bit more towards my crease. And I blended out with the shade Luna right here, the lightest one. And all over my lid I put Gemini with a glitter glue, because this is also a more crumbly shade and I think this is the best use is to really make sure that you have glitter glue on to provide fallout. And at the lower lash line I also have the shade Cupcake again on the outer portion and smudged it, yeah, towards the middle, and I blended out with the shade Lorelei. And to round everything up, I put also the shade Golds a little bit at the front portion of my lower lash line. And for the inner corners, I also stick to the shade Gemini. But this is not the only palette I used. I paired it a little bit with my Natasha Denona Love palette, and I sticked to this whitish shade right here, also a little bit for my inner corners and to smudge the matte shade and the glittery shade from the Melt palette a little bit more together. I also used this whitish shade in the middle portion of my lid area so that all is very nicely tied together. And yeah guys, but you really don't have to bring in another palette for this one, and this is something I appreciate with this palette right here. I think you have a really beautiful lighter shimmer, you have a beautiful, this is a greenish tone I'm more partial towards. I really like those greenish tones, don't use them that often. But if I'm using green, I really like those more mossy green tones or those more goldeny, dirty green tones. So those are the greens I really like to use a little bit more on my lid area. And yeah, really love this palette. The black is beautiful. Also like to use this one very often as in liner, as in wing. Don't do wings that often anymore, but when I want one and I need a black I can count on, I really like to go into this one right here. And I really like this palette. I think it's very cohesive, the color story is beautiful and I can make some bomb looks with it. So all in all, it's a beautiful, beautiful palette. I need to play a little bit more with it, but I'm really happy with this one. I'm not mad that I bought it. I'm not mad at any melt palette that I bought. But this is a really nice one and I'm happy that I have it, and I definitely want to play a little bit more with it. But yeah, if I have to rank this one somewhere, it would be on the 5th place. Really like it, really love it. But I think the other ones, I get a little bit more use out of them, and that's because they're a little bit ranked higher, but it's a solid 5th place and I'm really happy with this one. In the 4th place is my Millennial Pinks palette, and you know all why. I love rosy tones, and especially this one. I think the color story is so special and beautiful and something a little bit different, and it makes me really happy when I look at it. And I also really love this ruby star shade right here. I created some beautiful looks with this one, and fairly often when I'm wearing this palette out I get some compliments on my eye look, and yeah, not mad about this one. I know some people didn't like it. It was a really mixed opinion palette, but I love this one, guys. I think it's beautiful. But I know where people are coming from. The shimmers, some of those shimmers aren't that opaque, but they are beautiful and special in their own way, and they are giving your eyes this really subtle sheen, glittery effect, and I really love them. And you have some shades that are more opaque, you have some shades that are a little bit less opaque, but it's all in all depends how you are using them and what you want that your eye look will present in the end, if you know what I mean. So it's all about your preference, but I really love this palette. Those are my tones, my colors that I really love to play with. I feel confident and comfortable with them. All in all, this palette is really, really cool toned, but you also have some little bit more on the warmer toned rosy shades, and I'm appreciating that because I sometimes like to mix cool and warm tones together, and this palette is really challenging you with that a little bit more, and I really love them. The only thing I think that aren't that necessary are those two darkenish shades at the outer corner. I think one would have been more than enough, and maybe we could have here something else, something but fun. I don't know, maybe a blue. Maybe a real blue, because I think this GF shade and Euphoria both are on the more blackenish, darkenish side. In the pan, this GF tone are looking a little bit more grayish, and it's also transferring like a gray tone, but this black is no exception. It's looking black, but it's transferring a little bit more on the grayish blackish side. So they're really similar to one another. So I think this is the only complaint I maybe have a little bit with this palette, but all in all I really love it, and every time I use this one I love my eye look. So big fan, and yeah, happy to have it. On the 3rd place is my She's in Parties palette. Guys, this palette didn't get the love it deserves from me, but I really want to dig a little bit more into it. I love this one so much. I think the color story is beautiful, and this is the time right now where I really want to play with more berry tones. I'm really feeling the vibes right now for berries, so really want to dig into this one a little bit more again. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful and stunning palette. You have some lighter shades, you have some darker shades. It's a good ratio. I think I'm more partial to the lighter side, but all in all I really love the whole palette. I think the metallics are performing really nicely. You have 4, this one Skeleton Kiss, She's in Parties, Sleepwalk and Lost Control. You have 4 of those metallics that are really nice and easy to work with, and you have one of those more crumblier shades, this shade Strangelove right here, this lighter lilac-y shade. And this one I would also suggest to use with a glitter glue, but every shade in here, guys, I'm a big fan. I love them and I think they're beautiful, and right now it's the winter time, and right now I'm feeling it more than ever to play with those more coolish kind of shades, and I'm really happy with it. And I also really like, again, that Melt are playing a little bit more with warmer tones, with cooler tones in one palette. It's a small palette, but it's a good ratio, a good amount of shades, and I'm a big fan, and I really want to play a little bit more with it. Okay, the last 2 palettes, and this is a palette I initially placed on, I think, my 1st place, but it's got a little bit more down and it's now in the 2nd place, and it's my Rust palette from Melt Cosmetics. Guys, I love this palette. I'm a shimmer girl, but this palette is getting me, even though it just have 3 metallics and yeah, the rest is matte. I really love it. I love the color story. I think it's beautiful. You can do some really light, airy looks. You can do some grungy looks. You can do something in between. You can do everything with this palette. And I love those warm brown shades. They're feeling so cozy when I look at this palette, and it's just giving me all the feels, if you know what I mean. I really love this palette. I think it's a beautiful color story and it's really, really underrated. The metallics also are working perfectly fine. They're beautiful. I love this Redox shade. It took me a while to appreciate this shade, let me phrase it like that, but now I'm a big fan of this Redox shade. Before the Redox shade, I played really often with the Tarnish shade, but I think my new favorite is really the Redox shade when it comes to the metallic shades in here. And the shade Revenge is a really beautiful, nice, dark, more on the neutral side brownish shade. And guys, I really love this palette. All in all, it's beautiful. I love to use it the most for winter, also for summer, because you know, in the summertime when you are all bronzed up and you use those more lighter brownish shades on your face, it's a really beautiful summer palette as well. But the most use it gets out of me, it's definitely in the fall and winter time. But all in all, it's an all year round palette for me, guys. I really love it. It's also good for quick on the go, and everything is great with this palette. I have no complaints and I love this one so much, and I think it's a really underrated palette. Guys, shame on me, I forgot a palette. It's not 7, I have 8 palettes. I don't know what is wrong with me. I love this palette so much and I forgot it. Because it was in another drawer, so I didn't saw it, and I was so sure those are my 7 palettes from Melt that I have. But I have in fact 8 palettes. So let me quickly rank this palette also somewhere, because it's the Melt Modi Mariposa palette. How could I forget about this one? It's a beautiful, stunning palette. It's something new and more innovative from Melt when we look at the format of this palette, of the formulation and everything like that. It's a beautiful, beautiful palette. And if I have to rank it somewhere, I think I would rank it more at the 3rd place, and everything else will step a place behind it, if you know what I mean. Because I think those are not the colors I use the most, but this is a palette that impressed me so much from Melt. I love the formulation. It's a palette that works really nice and really stunning every time I'm doing a look with it. It's a bomb-ass look, and I think I would place it behind the Rust palette, but before everything else. I hope we are on the same page now. Shame on me that I forgot this palette right here. It's a beautiful palette. You also can do something fairly naturally with this one, with this row right here. You can pop in just a little bit of color. You can make it a bomb-ass colorful look. It's versatile, it's beautiful. I love the shimmers. My favorite shimmer is the Mariposa shimmer right here. It's a beautiful, extremely orangey metallic shade, and I'm in love with it. I just can repeat myself. Shame on me that I forgot this one. Really love it. But it's now here, and I hope you have a feeling for the ranking. I hope I didn't confuse you with that now, but it's, like I told you, I think behind the Rust palette, but before everything else, because it's a beautiful and stunning palette and a beautiful and stunning color story. I love this one really, really much. So, and now to the 1st place, and this is my Mary Jane palette. And I really love this one. I think it's a beautiful color story. I love that you have a little bit more of shimmers when it comes to Melt. We aren't used to that many shimmers. They are mostly more matte shades than shimmer shades. This is something I appreciate as well, but I love shimmers, and those shimmers are stunning and chef's kiss. I know many people struggled with that palette, but I really love this one. I noticed every time I use this one how much I love my eye look, how stunning it looks, how beautiful the shimmers are. But you need definitely glitter glue with some of that shades again. Mostly with the shade Mary Jane, Sweet Lucy and Carly. Those are the shades you really have to use glitter glue. Otherwise you will get Fallout City with them. But when you have them on your eyelid, guys, stunning. And the shades you don't necessarily need glitter glue are the shades Boo, Santa Maria and Bamba. Those are more your typical metallic shades that you know from Melt. So all in all, I really love this stunning, grungy-esque, cool toned palette right here. It's a palette that really gets me into cool tones again, and every time I use this one it's so beautiful, and I love that there's a beautiful switch to this palette because of the more greenish, dirty undertone that you get with some of those shimmer shades. Also those beautiful, more, gunmetal-y shades that you have in here. I think the palette, all in all, it's a really nice palette. It's beautiful, it's rounded up beautifully, and I love the color story. This is a palette I really love, and this is my number one for sure. I love this one. I love to use it. I have so much fun to use this one, and I really feel the need right now to use it so much more, guys. I'm a big fan of this one. But if you are struggling with fallout, you don't like to use glitter glue, you want to have it more quick and easy, I don't know if the palette is necessarily something for you, but all in all, you know, I don't have a problem, like I told you, with the Melt formula. And I love this one for sure. Yeah, guys, this was my Melt palette ranking. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed. If so, I would be really happy if you consider to subscribe my channel and give me also a thumbs up so that I know that you like this kind of content on my channel right here. And maybe also click on the little bell to get notifications here and there when I'm posting something new. And with that being said, guys, I really hope you liked this video. It was a little bit rumbly because I forgot one palette, but those are, all in all the Melt palettes that I love, that I have right now in my collection. I really admire, and I like to play with all of them, really. Equally, I like to play with all of them, but when it comes down to it, I think this would be my ranking for now. And I really hope I didn't confuse you with my palette that I forgot. For what reason ever. I love this one. I could never forget about this one, but you know, big collection. It's sometimes hard to get everything navigated, but really love this one as well, and I hope you didn't get confused with my little mistake at the end. Really sorry about that again, but I hope we will see each other in my next video, guys. Thank you so much for all your love, for all your comments, for the followers. I'm really happy about that, and we will see each other in my next video. Until then, bye.